Alrighty, hello guys, welcome. It's been a long time. I thought I would make another video in this Noob's Guide to MechWarrior. Some people asked about Crusader clans, Warden clans. I know I haven't made a video for a while. I was feeling a bit bummed out by people telling me that, it wasn't factual, whatever. And so this time I thought what I would do is I'll put some footnotes as to where I'm getting my information from. So if you disagree with me, you're welcome to go and read those books, and you can tell me what's wrong. And I appreciate that. And sometimes I get names confused, especially when you're dealing with long histories of families. So I'll try to make sure that I'm as accurate as possible. Thank you for the feedback, regardless whether you said it was good, whether you said it was bad. I thought, I'll give it a crack. Give it another crack, because it's been a while since I've done one. So, some people were asking about Crusader clans versus Warden clans, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do a little 10-minute video about that, but it gets a bit complex when you're talking about the politics of what happens. So, we'll start with what they are, and then we'll go into what happens, and then you'll understand that, no idea in MechWarrior or Battletech in that universe is straightforward. Everything is extremely complex because there's all these ins and outs and things. You've got so many factions and stuff. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. So, as we all know, the clans fled the Inner Sphere in hopes of creating a better society, less rife with conflict, etc. And this was called the Exodus. It happened in 2784. And the collective flowed along. So Kerensky said, you know what, we're going to get everything, we're going to bundle it all up, chuck it in a ship, and boo, off we go into space. And everyone at first was like, yeah, we're going to go and start a new society, it's going to be great. We love this crazy-ass gay space communism stuff. And off they went. However, as years went on, as the year went around, they were floating through space. They went through the Inner Sphere. They went through the periphery, and people started getting the shits. They were like, "Hey, does this guy even know where he's going? Does he, why is he taking us through this desert for 40 years?" Oh wait, wrong reference. But yeah, you get the idea. People got angry. So in 2785, 14 months after they left, and still hadn't gotten anywhere, many of the followers were like, you know what, this Kerensky guy. What an idiot. And one warship, the Prince Eugene, I don't know how you meant to say it, it gathered a bunch of other ships, there's 9 of them, and they declared that, you know what, screw you, we're going home, we're going back to the Inner Sphere. And Kerensky realized, hang on, that's a really bad idea, and that could wreck it for all of us. And he sent a strike team to go and board the ship and kill a bunch of the dudes. And there was a big firefight. They didn't want to have their ship, invaded for obvious reasons. But the strike team won the day, and the leaders of that ship were rounded up and held captive. And the other ships that were involved in that said, you know what, we're turning around, we're coming with you guys. We're sorry that we went with them. And off they went, right? There was a trial that took place, and they found all the captains and admirals and commodores and whatever other ranks were above captain. They all were found guilty, and they were executed. And Alexander Kerensky ordered that his son had to be one of the executioners. And that's important for other reasons. And as you can see down there, I've got a little footnote. This all happens in Operation Klondike. You get this information from there. So, as a result of this, Kerensky realizes, you know what? People are feeling pretty crappy about this exodus. We need to unify them, and we need to bring them together. So he comes out with this big speech, which basically says this. Return to the Inner Sphere is impossible for us. Our heritage and our convictions are different from those we left behind. The greed of the 5 great houses and the council lords is a disease that can only be burned away by the passing of decades, even centuries. And though the fighting may seem to slow or even cease, it will erupt again, as long as there are powerful men to covet one another's wealth. We shall live apart, conserving all the good of the Star League and ridding ourselves of the bad, so that when we return, and return we shall, our shining moral character will be as much our shield as our battle mechs or fighters. So that comes from the clan warriors of Kerensky. booklet. And so this is called the Hidden Hope Doctrine, right? There's a whole bunch of other stuff tied to this, but that's the main thing. So many years later, they go, oh, yes, this is very good. We're all inspired to follow you now. You're obviously a leader who knows stuff. Yay for crazy gay-ass space communism. And so they all, hurrah, and then go off and settle themselves and build their lives according to this idea that they're morally superior. Of course, the Pentagon worlds demonstrate that that's completely not true. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens between now and then. We don't care about that. What we care about is the Crusader clans. You might be saying, why are you telling me all this stupid stuff? Well, much later, one eternity later, during the mid to late 30th century, the clans, they start to split their beliefs. They have lots of interpretations of what the great grandfather wanted, the great Kerensky, Alexander Kerensky. What did he want when he first said those words? And because they're pretty vague and wanky, lots of interpretations began to spring up, right? And the main crux of the difference between the opinions was who would be doing the rebuilding of the Star League upon their return? Would it be the clans when they returned and rebuild it from the ashes? Or would it be, the people of the Inner Sphere who are guided by their moral superiority of the clans when they come back, right? So the Crusader clans were like, we're just going to retake the Inner Sphere by force, and we're going to conquer the weak, and that's going to bring out the morals of old. Whereas the Wardens are like, you know what? We have a legacy of blood to protect them, right, and bring them enlightenment, bring them understanding, and that kind of understanding that occurred when we started the Star League way back when. So military conquest is exactly the opposite of what we need. What we need is for them to choose to have their own, enlightenment, rather than choose to do it because they're being forced to do it. And that was the whole point of the Exodus in the first place, was this infighting. And you can find that in the Field Manual Crusader Clans, Warden Clans. Everything from this point on will be from those two books, Field Manual Crusader Clans or Field Manual Warden Clans. Both of them talk about these issues in different ways. So, who are the Crusader Clans? The Crusader Clans included Clan Bloodspirit, Fire Mandrill, Hell's Horses, Ice Hellion, Jade Falcon, Star Adder, Clan Wolf, and Clan Smoke Jaguar. Now, Clan Wolf is a contentious one because a lot of the people in there and the leaders, for most of it, are Wardens, but many of the soldiers are Crusaders, and it gets very complex. And most of the political intrigue in the novels and stuff about this time is all based around, like, is Clan Wolf Warden or Crusader, and what the go is with that. So, those clans, they're the ones that want to jump on board, right? The Warden clans, the clans that believed that it was about enlightenment and protecting the Inner Sphere, were Clan Cloud Cobra, Clan Coyote, Clan Diamond Shark or Sea Fox, Clan Ghost Bear, Clan Goliath Scorpion, Clan Snow Raven, Clan Steel Viper, and eventually the members of Clan Wolf who will be exiled. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so there's a great debate. Over this whole time, they're constantly saying, should we go and invade? Should we not? What's the plan? And prior to the invasion of the Inner Sphere, most of the Warden clan leaders, which this included Ulrich Kerensky, they'd done everything they could to prevent these hot-headed crusaders from embarking on their conquest to conquer the Inner Sphere. They tried re-quoting the thing, like, many decades, many centuries, things like that. They tried lots of other tactics. But after a lot of debate, it was decided that, action is necessary. It's really important that we go in and step that up, especially during the Fourth Succession War. They're going to just nuke themselves out of here. And so, because there was a internal conflict in the clan that was building between these people who wanted to go and invade and these people who thought, no, let's not do that. The Khan Kurlan Ward of Clan Wolf said, you know what, here's the solution. It's year 3000. We are going to send a reconnaissance team, because we're not just going to invade blindly. We want to know what's going on. And if our reconnaissance team comes back with the information that, they're actually working together, it just looks terrible from afar, we won't invade. If they are in fact all at each other's throats like we think, we'll invade then. Will that settle you guys down? And everyone's like, yeah, that sounds like a great plan. Let's absolutely do that. That works, no worries. So they form a team, and this team is called the Wolf's Dragoons, and they were going to work as mercenaries for each of the great houses to get a feel for who should be left after the war ends, right? And so all the clans agreed to this, and the Dragoons got sent off. And then Kurlan Ward says, oh, one other thing. It's going to take at least 30 years, so, don't even think about invading them. We need to gather that data. And all the Crusaders were like, what the... and flipped a table about that, right? And it was very concerning for all of them. But you know what? They agreed to it. The rules were fair. You know, they agreed to it, and so you know, clan society is all about following the rules, except when you don't, right? So, there's a lot of political back and forth as to whether or not they should invade and stuff like that. A lot of them had felt that the wardens held too much power in preventing the catalyst for war, dragging everything out. And all that changed in 3048 because they were still negotiating, but the wardens were like, yeah, well, we've got to wait for this mission and stuff like that. And a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, but, you know, the Dragoons are just wanking around. They've already taken 48 years. You know, it's not like they're actually doing what they were meant to do. And, you know, everything got a bit more complicated. So all that changed when a Comstar ship knocked up on their doorstep, right? And they arrived on Huntress in 3048. And the Smoke Jaguar forces captured it straight away. And because, you know, that's where they were living, on Huntress. And the Khan, Leo Sayer, was, you know, he extracted great information from the crew. He managed to torture them and get all the information out of them that he needed to build a case for invasion. I don't know if that's meant to be Sawyer. I don't know. Leo Sayer's a singer. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I've written the wrong name there. Spoiler alert. I may make a mistake. Anyway, this Khan guy of Smoke Jaguar goes and presents the information, and he inferred it wouldn't be long before the Inner Sphere were united under Steiner-Davian Federated Commonwealth, and that would then lead to an invasion of the clan worlds, right? He used the information, he manipulated it in such a way that they felt threatened by unification under Steiner-Davian. So they cast a vote, and everyone except Clan Wolf said, yeah, let's go kick some butt. So in March 3050, the invasion of the Inner Sphere began. The privilege of attacking the invasion was won by Smoke Jaguar, Jade Falcon, Clan Ghost Bear. The three, you know, majorly strong you know, clans at the time, the strongest military ones, with the exception of the Wolf, right? Now, the role of the leader of the invasion was given to the Smoke Jaguar Khan, who had gathered that information, right? The Il Khan. And as a form of sort of a perverse punishment, Clan Wolf was sort of forced into leading the invasion as well. However, this would eventually backfire, right? So Clan Wolf, their leaders had really been against crusading and invading, and so sort of, you know, as a perverse personal punishment, they organized for them, you know, to especially Ulrich Kerensky to have to lead a force to destroy the ideals that he was sort of keeping as you know, a warden. However, Ulrich Kerensky thought, you know what? Screw you guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to race you there. I'm going to drive harder and faster towards Terra than any other clan so that I can have all this time with their leaders and make these negotiations. So if I get there first, I'm the winner. I get to decide what's going on, right? And so they push like as brutal as possible all the way through. In October 31st, 3050, a Comstar pilot took her fighter jet and rammed it into a ship that was carrying the Smoke Jaguar Ilkhan, which meant that the clans, all of their leaders, had to go back to elect a new leader for the invasion. Right now, this is, you know, well documented. You know, you go on any of the books and stuff like that, you can go and see that. But the important thing is he was coming for a negotiation of sorts. And it could have brought about a much faster peace. So some people say that action from the Comstar pilot actually resulted in prolonging the war a lot longer. And in fact, that, you know, some of the Crusader clans were going to be successful, you know, in like achieving a massive surrender from the Inner Sphere's forces. So that would have turned the war. But because this lady did that happened, right? So now all the clans, their leaders go back, and the invasion sort of put on hold for a minute, right? So this gave the Inner Sphere time to protect themselves, and that's a whole other presentation. And the other clans knew that their best bet in the long run would be to elect Ulrich Kerensky as the Ilkhan for the invasion, right? Which would force him to disgrace himself should it fail, which meant that he would have to succeed or he would have to fail. right? And if he failed, there's a lot of disgrace going with that. There's blood names and his heritage and all this sorts of stuff that gets involved. However, he sort of foresaw that. And so what he did was he removed himself from being the Khan of Clan Wolf, and he promoted Natasha Kerensky into that position. And when the election was won, he'd be clear of all that political games. It wouldn't be his whole clan that would suffer. It would just be him personally, which, so much politics. It's like Game of Thrones or House of Cards. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a shame this isn't like its own TV show or whatever. So now in control of the invasion, the Wardens organized for rival clans, Steel Vipers and Nova Cats, to share their invasion corridors with Jade Falcon and Smoke Jaguar. So Steel Viper and Jade Falcon, bitter rivals. Nova Cat, Smoke Jaguar, bitter rivals. So what would happen is that whilst they're fighting, the petty infighting would slow the two major Crusaders down, giving Clan Wolf yet again a little bit of an advantage in pushing towards Terra. In the meantime, the Inner Sphere forces had had time to ready their defenses. They'd started building more weapons. They had time to repair. Their fighters were getting trained better. All these sorts of things. So further invading forces no longer had surprise at the ready. Right? They didn't have that as a weapon to use, and so most of the important battles were lost because of that the Crusaders would have done if they had just kept pushing through. And so the Crusaders started to feel this pressure of maybe we're not right after all. Meanwhile, Ulrich Kerensky had been negotiating with Comstar and had organised for them to fight a proxy battle. So instead of fighting for Terra, they'd fight on a much less defended planet of Tukiid, right? So this was presented to the clan leaders, who were like, yeah, sure, we'll fight these losers on this crappy shithole planet. Let's, we'll kick their asses from here to all the way back to Terra. But they completely underestimated what was going on. During the battle, the major Crusader clan forces were all unable to achieve significant victories. Like, I think Ghost Bear got a marginal victory. Jade Falcon had a draw in their battle, and then everyone else was nowhere near the mark, right? The only one who was the Warden-led Wolf Clan, who actually won by a very wide margin, right? And so that, again, sort of vindicated the Warden way of life and that they were the stronger clan and all that other clan garbage that they believe in. The clans had to accept defeat, and with it, they had negotiated a 15-year-long truce with Comstar. And so that sort of brings us to the close of the invasion. The Refusal War is sort of what comes up next, and this could be its whole own video. I'm just going to fast forward through this part so that we're not here for 10 hours, alright? So, immediately, the Crusader factions of Wolf and Jade Falcon began to undermine the truce, and there was some success in 3054 and 3055. They hired some pirate bands which had connections to their blood names and things like that, called the Red Corsairs, and got them to act for the clans, and those people totally got busted. It was a massive public failure. But it sort of came across like this was a clan leadership thing, right? It created more aggression with the Crusaders to say, we should be doing this because this is our way of life. There was all this stuff going on. And so this was used to politically position Ulrich Kerensky basically into impeachment from his position. And a lot of people thought that, once we kick him out, once he's no longer the leader of the invasion, then the truce is off, right? And so as his sort of final act, their argument was that because the clan warriors couldn't go off and kill themselves, they couldn't earn a blood name. Because they couldn't earn a blood name, that was damaging the heritage of the clans. Interesting idea, but it's, complex. Anyway, Ulrich accepted it and said, yep, fair enough, you got me. I will resign. But as my last thing, we better do a trial of refusal so that we can refuse the truce properly, right? And everyone's like, oh, so the truce isn't just okay, fair enough. We'll win a trial refusal. No big deal, right? So Ulrich's plan, however, wasn't to just let the Crusaders win with their principal point. What he was trying to do was set up a trial of refusal in a situation so that it could completely undermine this whole thing, right? So if they fail a trial of refusal, that's it. Game over. There's no more recourse for that. They can't trial of refusal, another trial of refusal, right? Pretty straightforward. So, what he set up was that Clan Wolf and Clan Jade Falcon would fight together. Now, they were the most powerful of the two Crusader forces. So, number one, whatever happened, it would destroy the Crusader forces enough that it would basically put a stop to their invasion anyway. Whilst the trial of refusal was going on, he then got the loyal wardens of Clan Wolf. They were going to bugger off to Ark Royal and hide basically in a safer spot, so that they could, after the truce, the trial of refusal had ended and the truce was still going, they'd be in a better political position to be able to negotiate with the Inner Sphere. And that was led by Phelan Kell, of the clan Wolf, right? And they were setting this up so that they could basically, once it all fell apart, they'd be in the best possible position for Clan Wolf to come out, be a warden clan, and bring in the new era, right? However, because all the warden fighters of Clan Wolf buggered off, all the Crusader Wolves lost the battle, right? Ulrich and Natasha Kerensky were also there and killed. And the invasion was back on. They were like, yep, Jade Falcons win, refusal achieved. Now, the wardens of Clan Wolf were now exiled from the clans. They'd be hunted down should they return, was sort of their idea, was that, if you come back, that's it, you're dead. So they became Clan Wolf in exile, which is a whole other thing. People have asked about the factions of Clan Wolf. I'll try and do a video on that when I get a chance. The casualties to both Wolf and Falcon were extreme, though. So the invasion really had to be delayed further, which I guess was his plan in the first place, but it didn't quite go exactly as he wanted. So, the end of the invasion. The clans resumed their invasion, the Crusaders winning, leading the way, and they were coming up against much mightier foes than when they first began. And this was because, firstly, they'd lost most of their best warriors. The technology armament for the Inner Sphere had increased because Comstar had released all the Forgotten Star League technology. There was all this other stuff that was coming out, and it basically gave the Inner Sphere the upper hand. Also, the troops are being trained better. They know the rules, all that sort of stuff. So, as we all know, from this point on, the Inner Sphere united, reformed the Star League. It's a whole other video. And now knowing the clan rules, they selected Smoke Jaguars, wiped them out. They had multiple forces. Victor Steiner Davian heads off to Stranomecti and says, "Yo, trial of refusal for your invasion, bro." And the best warriors of all of the Inner Sphere fight some random dudes on Stranomecti, and as a result win. The invasion gets cancelled. The rest is history. I'm not going to go too much into that because there's millions of videos on YouTube about that, and books and everything. It's always in the videos. I'm going to fast forward over it. Here we go. So, after the war, the clans now start to have to rebuild their culture, and they sort of have to take that shame of the great defeat. They were on the losing side. And so that has a lot of impact for the Crusader clanners who were like, yeah, this is the right way. It totally isn't the right way because they lost, right? So now they have to sort of, justify the fact that they've lost. A divide between the ideology of the Homeworld clanners who were like, so dedicated to no crusade, no warden, blah, blah, blah. It didn't live up to the practical everyday applications of their philosophy once the clans had invaded, right? And the invader clans had to now deal with the fact that they were in a scenario where they, they had to make friends with their neighbors, so much to speak. They had to have that that friendliness, and that meant that they can't just stick to one ideology, and so as a result, this created a divide. The people on the homeworlds were like, yeah, we should invade again, and they're like, we really can't do that because if we do that, that's going to cause a lot of problems for us, right? It's very complex, and there's a lot of the clans sort of, especially in Ghost Bear, where they're trying to find that, in Russell Hug, they're trying to find that, that common ground, and it would be impossible for them to now flip it because everything's mixed together. So because of that sort of, and that political divide sort of became like more important than just the idea of Crusader and Warden. So they ceased to be a dividing philosophy for the clans because the Sphere seems to be united. The clan way really didn't work because they lost. Once that element of surprise was taken away and that technological advantage was taken away, so it wasn't like the clan way was any better, and the clans infought with themselves as well, which is a whole other story. So it didn't really live up to the expectations that they said. And as events continued to unfold, many of them were saying, you know what, we need to crusade again. So like things like the jihad, things like the Civil War, stuff like that. They're like, oh, we should totally crusade again. But basically, everyone was like, well, we've kind of been castrated by that before. You know, we've lost all our power for that. So the defeat, really meant that crusading no longer became such an ideal that people aspired to be searching for. So that's Crusader and Warden clans in a nutshell. A very basic guide. I think the next one I'll do is the sub-factions of Clan Wolf, because I know a lot of people ask about that. I'm not a big specialist on Clan Wolf. I don't know too much about Clan Wolf. But I'll do my research, and like this time, I'll put all my sources in the box so you can see it. Let me know how I did. I hope this one was a bit better. I hope this is entertaining. Sorry I haven't put videos for a while. I've been very busy, but I'll try and do, maybe one a month or more if I can, just depending upon how I go, because I have to type it all up. It takes time. I need my house to be quiet so I can record. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next video, I guess. Bye. Which is going to end now.